Hello, friends. We are on to Chapter 4 of Rolling Thunder, The Crucial Conversation. Once again, I took my shoulder bag and returned through the little town in the dark. I decided I would ask Rolling Thunder if we could talk alone. I wanted this first contact to be personal and direct, and I wanted Rolling Thunder to feel to say whatever he wished. I have come to know Rolling Thunder as a gentle, compassionate healer, a crafty social strategist, a skillful debater, a thoughtful and loving father, a practical outdoorsman, a careful socialite. He can be the stern and stoic native or a delightful comic. He is a spiritual teacher, an enchanting storyteller, and a tough, hard-working railroad brakeman. And, to the casual observer, a plain, very ordinary guy. I have seen him under many conditions, but I can think of no attribute or its opposite that would describe him on the first night we met and talked. Despite my initial feelings about going to a strange place, alone and uninvited, to meet a native medicine man in his native milieu, the meeting was the easiest and most natural first encounter I have ever had with anyone. No effort was needed on my part. Rolling Thunder opened the door himself. He was completely neutral. "How are you? What is your name?" "Maybe you remember me. I met you at Council Grove." I looked inside. The atmosphere was strange yet cheerful and friendly. On the walls there were deer horns and woven tapestries. Against one wall there was a glass case filled with small relics, some of which looked like amulets and charms. Over this was a grand stuffed eagle with outstretched wings. The room smelled of cedar smoke and incense. I thought of the Korean mudang, the Shinto medium. They would have respected for a place like this. "Come on in." Rolling Thunder introduced me to his two visitors. They were Anne Haberton and Richard Clemmer. Anne was an artist, and Richard was an anthropologist from the University of Illinois, and they had met Rolling Thunder the previous summer. I liked them immediately. We were to spend the following year together, and much of the understanding I have gained from Rolling Thunder is due partly to them. The chance to talk with Rolling Thunder was arranged. I suggested it almost right away. But he postponed it for some small talk and relaxation. Several times during the conversation, Rolling Thunder made a gesture that made him appear that he was about to fall asleep. He would drop his head over to one side and let it fall backward. Each time he did this, he would squint in my direction, as if he were peering at someone just beside me. Several times I nearly turned to look, but I knew no one was there. Then he would lift his head and join the conversation as though he had done nothing unusual. It was uncommon behavior, yet it appeared to be such a satisfying habit that I did not feel ill at ease. In fact, I was beginning to feel very comfortable when Rolling Thunder stood up. "Well, let's go outside, you and me, and we can get some fresh air and chat." When we were out of the house, he said, "Let's sit in the car over there." It was July 14th, and it must have been close to midnight. The night was cool and quiet, and I felt good. We climbed into the front seat of one of the old cars and talked for over an hour. Rolling Thunder fingered the steering wheel as if he might be driving me on some symbolic first trip. Somehow we covered most of the territory we were to explore more carefully in the months to come. I remember everything about that night, except which car we sat in. Rolling Thunder had about half a dozen old vehicles in his yard, some running, some needing major repairs. Among them were a station wagon, a jeep, and even an old army half-track with a wrench in the front. Many times I have looked over all his old cars, trying to remember which one it was that was special. I have forgotten, or it has changed, or disappeared. I knew I must tell Rolling Thunder why I had come. He may have sensed my mission, but I felt it was business to be explicit. I was tempted to give him the tobacco first while I decided what to say, but he would want to know who was bringing it and why. I told him I was part of a team researching states of consciousness, volition, self-regulation, and creativity, and that since Council Grove Conference, the Greens and I had felt there was much of value he could contribute in these matters, if he wished to, in the form of teaching, demonstration, or explanation. I had come for such contribution, in case there was to be any, because I believed he had information that would be helpful not only to us in our research, but also to others. I believed he knew things he would like others to know. Then I said, I feel that this is all entirely up to you and that I am only an instrument. I waited, and Rolling Thunder was silent. In fact, he was motionless. He inhaled loudly, but he spoke gently and with neither finality nor uncertainty. I think I get the picture of what you're saying. You're talking pretty heavy stuff. I guess you might be disappointed. The teachings don't come like some people think. You can't just sit down and talk about the truth. It doesn't work that way. You have to live it and be a part of it, and you might get to know it. I say you might. And it's slow and gradual, and it doesn't come easy. I guess we could just see what happens. His words stayed with me, and I later repeated them into my tape recorder. Now I appreciate their simplicity and honesty. They would have been true and fitting whatever happened. Though I claim to be only an instrument, I have realized considerable emotional involvement. My feelings in my work with Rolling Thunder have ranged from disappointment to excitement to ecstasy. I said nothing, and Rolling Thunder asked, "What is the Menninger Foundation?" That brought more silence. How could I describe the Menninger Foundation in a sentence or two? I wanted to avoid a nutshell definition, but I also wanted to know that I represented the Menninger Foundation. I did not necessarily represent the aims and aspirations of all the department and staff. I explained that the Menninger Foundation was an organization with hospitals and clinics. It was the world's largest training center for psychiatrists and a research department, all concerned with problems and solutions in the area of mental health. I told him of the few people there that would know about him or me or what I was doing. I work for the research department, but even that has many parts. Our project is called the Voluntary Controls Project. My work here would just be a part of that project. Well, I know a little something about that project, I guess, from Council Grove. What is the main idea behind this research? The idea of self-regulation, that every person is their own master. I talked about the things that Swami Rama and other subjects have done in the laboratory. I briefly explained how certain processes, biofeedback and autogenic training, were combined in this research to investigate the possibility that people can learn to voluntarily influence or regulate automatic functions such as heart rate, blood pressure, and body temperature. Learning to gain some measure of control over these normally automatic processes seemed to lead to some success in the regulation of other internal states and functions, such as concentration, relaxation, attention, and creativity. You spoke at Council Grove about a sense of identity and purpose, I said, how a person should come to know themselves and become aware of their needs and motives and natural capacities. It seemed to me that one's chances of acquiring awareness of self and purpose and of maintaining good health and achievement in that purpose would be greatly enhanced by an understanding of how much of one's condition is voluntary, or could be voluntary. Rolling Thunder said, I like that voluntary part, and that gets into government and laws and the whole of what you call the system. Every person has their own identity, and they have their own purpose in this world, and they have ways of finding out that identity and carrying out that purpose. No person should interfere with that. He talked about governments, social systems, natural laws, ecology, healing, races, wars, self-regulation, and karma. And he talked about all these things as they related to that word voluntary. When he had to say, in the sense, was like the words of Thomas Jefferson, the best government is the least government. Rolling Thunder feels that each person has their own destiny or purpose and their own karma to handle. The natural tendency of each government to regulate people results in government expansion of power and control to the point of mass manipulation and conformity, and it's counter to the purpose of which people live. He explained that the natives in the tribes throughout America are now part of two important types, traditional natives and BIA Indians. BIA Indians have succumbed to the Bureau of Indian Affairs, contempt for Indians, and its belief in their incompetency. Many have come incompetent, for without self-determination and self-direction, anyone is lost. Many are alcoholics, and their suicide rate is the highest in the United States. These conditions aid the exploitation of Indians. Traditional Indians, however, still live by a code of conduct that they have carried with them during all their history. These codes are essentially codes of mutual respect, and therefore guarantees of freedom. Strict guarantees of self-direction and individual pursuit of purpose are a major part of the codes. Traditional Native recognize no government. They participate in no political system. When the white men invaded our lands, it was an act of oppression. Now this oppression extends more and more to non-natives as well, to minority groups, to people in underdeveloped lands, to people of new generations with new ideas, and to all people outside the government establishment. But we traditional natives don't participate in that system. We're oppressed by it, but we don't try to be a part of it. You can't go to another people's land and try to kick out everyone off that land, and when they have no place to go, you kill off most of them in the process, and then say that the ones who are left are supposed to join your club. That's wrong. We don't like their club and we won't join it. If it were a good club, they wouldn't need to expect us to, and they leave our club alone. And they would leave other people in other countries alone. Everyone has their own club. If it's a bad club, it's no one's business. The people will learn in their own way. No good system tries to spread itself. It's good to help people, but it's wrong to spread systems. It's wrong to spread beliefs. It doesn't matter whether it's Christianity or whatever it is. It doesn't matter if it's the best belief in the world. There's no such thing. It should be only told to those who ask. It's wrong to spread any ideology by intimidation, and that means Christianity, communism, capitalism, democracy, or anything else. And by the way, Rolling Thunder said, we are not a conquered people. We are not subjects. We have made mutual treaties with the white man, most of which the white man has broken, but there has never been a case of surrender. The state of ecology, or of modern man's environment, was to Rolling Thunder another example of oppression. Modern man talks of harvesting nature, conquering nature, and making nature a servant of man. This shows that the modern man doesn't know the first thing about nature and nature's ways. And the condition of the environment today proves that. Now everyone's afraid of air pollution, radioactivity, and poisoned water. The land is becoming contaminated, and the resources are disappearing or becoming unstable. Now people wonder whether it's too late. You can't make any kind of laws or system to control nature or to control man's inner nature, his consciousness or his natural behavior or the way he thinks and feels. That cannot be controlled. No individual or group can block another's individual path or change it against what fits his nature or his purpose. It might be done for a time, but in the end it won't work out. It will only lead to danger and fear for everyone. Even in healing we take that into account. A true healer considers a person's karma and their own identity. They have a way of looking into and understanding what is meant to be according to each individual's own progress and unfoldment. That way, things are more realistic, and it saves everyone a lot of trouble. Nature is sovereign, and man's inner nature is sovereign. Nature is to be respected. All life and every single living being is to be respected. That is the only answer. Listening to Rolling Thunder made me wish to get beyond the academic subject category orientation in which I had been trained to think of politics, health, and ecology, and to be able to think of all of these things as being related to each other and the whole earth. The significance of all that Rolling Thunder said rests in his unitary vision. The laws of karma, of action-reaction, man-nature relationships, and all natural laws, principles of health, healing, self-regulation, social interaction can only be understood when they are seen collectively. In Rolling Thunder's view, for example, the ever increasing accumulation of complicated and oppressive laws which have the effect of obscuring individuality and obstructing self-determination and self-regulation results from growing inattentiveness to the laws of mind and nature. In a vicious circle, these man-made laws obscure the laws of natural and promote further ignorance, resulting in further chaos, resulting in the apparent need for further oppression. Somewhere in the midst of that long talk there was a pause, and I offered Rolling Thunder the tobacco pouch that the can of Sir Walter Raleigh that I had carried 3 times along with me. "Oh, I left my pipe inside," he said. "Just a minute." He went inside. When he returned to the steering wheel, he was carrying a long-stemmed pipe with some strings or cord attached to the stem, where it joined a tall cylindrical bowl. I could not see very well in the dark. Right away he filled the pipe, lit it, and began to puff in earnest. Then he handed the pipe to me. "Would you like to try it?" I did. That is the end of chapter 4, everyone. Thank you very much for listening. We'll see you shortly. Niawa. In Rolling Thunder's view, for example, the ever-increasing accumulation of complicated and oppressive laws which have the effect of obscuring individuality and obstructing self-determination and self-regulation results from a growing inattentiveness to the laws of mind and nature. In a vicious circle, these man-made laws obscure the laws of nature and promote further ignorance, resulting in further chaos and the apparent need